Okay, we will begin because people from the companies have to leave quite soon. So, and we are gonna change a little bit.
Some hours ago, the show Landful of Heroes, which is the proposal of Sarah Jones of the University of Birmingham, who
I'm Sarah Jones, and I work at the University of Birmingham in the Department of Modern Languages. And the project was born in a research network, in fact, which looked at the ways in which testimony is produced in different cultural forms. And then at one of the meetings, I think it was the first meeting, Eugenio was there, and Carmen Francesca was there, and I sort of casually said, well, why don't you work together on a production staging Carmen Francesca's life, also her literature, and wouldn't it be interesting to see what happens when we put these different kinds of testimonial forms together? And then they ran with the idea, and we ran with the idea, and it's led to a kind of follow-on project, which the theatre performance that you saw this afternoon was part of, and then there's a kind of extended bit, but I don't need to know about that now. So I think that's it, really? Yeah?
Hello. I'm Eugenio Schwarzer, as you know, part of the company also. I would like to open it to question because actually I don't have anything else to say. We saw it on stage, what I had to say about it.
Okay, so is there someone who wants to add?
How long have you been working with mother and daughter, or?
Concretely with mother and daughter, a month and a half, but actually with Carmen Francesca we started, I don't know, a year and a half ago.
Like a general question for all of you, like how do you deal with this documentary gender in theater, and how do you feel like faces are important, people, real people, you know, like connection with all or not, being there, you know, like it's important to relate it to a personal story, not that much, more to a general thing?
Yeah, for us, it's very important to be related with a concrete person. For us, the individual story is the base, and the individual experience is the base of our work. But we need to relate. We are very interested on relating this experience with the collective experience. So, of course, we didn't experience revolution, for example, but we can work, we can talk, we can share many time of rehearsal and work with people who really experience these things. And we are interested in create relationships between these two layers, create some perspectives on some events.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions around? Some comments?
There was an audience member who was very moved by the portrayal of the relationship between mother and daughter. And I wanted to ask you, as mother and daughter, how is to put your real relationship on stage? Has it affected your relationship as mother and daughter?
I'm not sure I don't know if I can tell yet if my relationship is affected. I mean, of course, I got to know her in a different way. I think we have a quite open relationship in general, so it was not such a hard thing to concentrate. It was not really concentrating on our relationship on stage. I think this is something that just was there and appeared, and sometimes we, how to say? No, it was not such a great focus on it actually, because it happened anyway. We have a easy relationship to each other. I used to ask her a lot of questions in my life, and of course it was a bit more difficult to find the right questions for me to ask her on stage that could be also interesting for other people. Yeah, but the relationship, I think we were open with it, so it was not a big deal.
For me, it was very interesting to discover my daughter from the perspective of working together. As an observer, as somebody who understood, who dived into my past, and not only my past, the past of that time, to try to understand it. Before, as she told, in that wie heißt es? Da, wo du über dich sprichst, ein Wort in Rumänien, Monolog, sorry. As she tells in the monologue, we talk at home because it's natural. We tell stories from the past, but they are told not with the idea of creating a historical understanding, but to tell your personal story. And sometimes they listen, sometimes not, sometimes they say, yeah, you with your stories. But now we just took each other very seriously and looked at each other with our whole personality, maybe, and not only with this situation of being mother and daughter. And for me, I'm very thankful for this experience and for the whole, anyway, for the whole experience, but also for this one, for this kind of relationship of discovery of my daughter. Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to ask you both, because you were, of course, talking about the falling of the Berlin Wall, and you were saying at some point in the play, that I don't know if it is your own voice, saying that at that period they were like kind of very clear things that the generation of your mother had to fight against. And now that we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Berlin's fall, but they're raising a lot of other walls in the whole world. I would like to know a little bit more from your mother, the perspective, when that happened, and nowadays, the other walls that are being raising up, and your perspective that you were saying that there is not a clear thing to fight for, or something like that.
Now, I see things, I know things I would like to fight for, but I think I imagined always, revolutions. For example, this of my mother experience, but also other historical events. I grew up with the understanding that it was something that it grew in a necessity, and you could. It was a border, and you saw it, and you had to go through it. This is how I imagine. Like it has been, and now we have climate change. This is such a how do you handle? It's about awareness, actually. It's about you need to understand things. But how do you fight it? How do you fight politicians, or you fight? I don't know. It's much more inconcrete for me to know what I need to do. Of course, I take care of things, and the youth is going on the street, but how do you prepare something? I don't know. It's Walls and borders. Yeah, we had a piece. We had a moment where we were talking about how do you experience borders. I never saw a border, for example. I got my German citizenship when I was, I don't know, 18 or 19, and then I am not, I live in Berlin, in Europe, the wall is gone, I just see the things on the street and it's kind of part of the history, it is part of the history, but I'm not confronted, me personally, I'm not confronted with those borders. I'm not the one who's coming to Europe and has to cross a border where that makes it difficult for him to enter or to live free. No, I don't know how to. Do you want to say something?
Yes, I didn't experience the fall of the wall in Berlin, but I experienced it through the radio because we were hearing Radio Free Europe, and at that time we were hearing in the evening all the time, and we heard when it happened, and yes, it was a very important moment for us and for me, because borders were and are essential for me. I mean, overcoming borders, overcoming limits, and to continue to see how far can we go. I am conscious that we now have different kind of borders, not like the one which was like a political border. I mean, and what's the name? I'm tired. I'm sorry. The system is it's not a political border. It's an economical border, and these kind of borders arise everywhere. They are misused as political issues, but in fact they are economical issues. And at the same time, we know that the planet is in danger and that we cannot, even if we stop the people, even if we could stop the people at the borders, the destiny of the planet is in danger, and even if everybody is coming to Europe, it will not save us. I think that we have to understand that borders have to disappear, and we have to concentrate on something else, of developing a collective consciousness and awareness that we have all the same interest to do the best for our surviving on the planet, and that we don't have to fight each other with the different nations and political systems and the word that doesn't come to me now, but that we have to unite on each other, unite and to have the same goal. We have the same goal, and as long as we will not understand this, we are in real danger. I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you very much. We are gonna move to
ideologies. Sorry, this was the word.
Great. We are gonna move to the second show, even if it's a bit shorter, because Bertrand has to leave, and otherwise they won't be able to talk about. So, applause for the first show. You know how it goes.
Okay. So my name's Nassi. This is Bert. We've been working on the show that we showed last night for about a year, a bit under a year. It was a bit of a different direction to like our previous work. The shows that we've made in the past have been maybe more explicitly political, for us at least, maybe not for everyone. But yeah, we kind of like the idea. There's always been this element of movement in the work that we've made, and we wanted to see what we could do in terms of like really pushing it into that direction, like putting ourselves in that environment and in that situation, and seeing what came out and seeing what whether it worked or not. In terms of, I've got an interesting. I've got a question. That's good, isn't it? Okay, so I got a question which is, we did a sharing of this show when to friends and family, like really close people to us, and they enjoyed it. But also it was like the show's very personal to us, and it dawned on me yesterday before we were doing the show that like you might not know which one is Nassi and which one is Bert, you know? Like during the show, we never really like make that point. So I guess my question about the piece would be about that in terms of did not knowing us, did that have an effect on... I'd be interested to hear about what people felt not knowing us in that piece. You got anything to say? Is that great? Okay.
So is there someone wanting to answer? Yeah.
I think, thank you first for the show. I really enjoy it. First, not at all. I don't think it made a difference. Of course, I was asking myself, in a way, who is who, but it just didn't matter at the end of the day who is who. It's just one of you. There was like 50-50 probabilities, and that's it, no? I mean, it's very easy. But for me, it just didn't matter. It was about you. Of course, it was really personal, but it was also something especially came across on the circle at the end. Who might be the one who is depressed, or who is the one who is, you know, this kind of questions appear because you try to associate with, you know, you start analyzing suddenly how you look or how you know, like you start not judging, but you start kind of really looking more precisely, and yeah, this kind of things happen to me, but yeah.
Also for me it was not important because you were in the imagination situation. Then whatever, I mean, it was not true, it was not real, it was not a present, it was imagination. Then, yeah, I don't know if it's answered. And that was very good.
Yeah, I just want to say that was the best show I've ever seen here. I've been here for 3 years, and that was fantastic, guys. Stupendous. Can't praise you highly enough. Keep it up. It was a mixture of, I don't know, almost Chaplin-esque, Laurel and Hardy, everything. And it was just fantastic, and it was just mind-bogglingly good, I thought. And yeah, keep it up, and it got better. As it progressed, it seemed to get better until it reached a crescendo of comedy. It was just fabulous, and tragedy as well, juxtaposed with common, you know, predicting your own death. You know, that was fantastic because I've lost a couple of friends, you know, close personal friends in the last couple of years, and, you know, and you predicted your own death. And yeah, it was just mind-bogglingly good. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Vote for you.
Hi. I just want to add the idea of I really like also to be there and to see you guys, and then I really like also the simplicity of how you build the relationship, and then relation with the song also, how this make me think about your relations and work, and then also the text, both the beginning with the ideas of the galaxy in the future, and come back to here, the festival, and then the other narrative to imagination, your future. I think it's a very political exercise to one person or to a group or to one relationship. I really like it. Thank you.
Hi, hello. I think it's not important the same as they. It's not important who is who, but I think for me, it's my perception, it's a really emotive show because the people who knows you a little bit, for us, it's a little emotive, and in addition, for me, maybe, because I'm always thinking what will be with me in the future, and with me and a close friend or a work mate. So yesterday I was thinking with your show, what will be with my person in the future, and was really emotive, and I have to say you thank you because it was nice.
About choosing which one was, it happened to me that I just needed to put a name to one or the other, and while the thing was progressing, I started switching. Oh, maybe no, the other. Okay, let's do it. Let's switch. And then, oh no, let's switch again. And so at the end, it seemed like it didn't matter because the same stuff could or would happen to any. It was just like one person at the end. It's something like that what I experienced. It was just your question.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can say whatever you want.
I would be curious to hear about how did you draft. Sorry, I do not remember the title of the piece, but I maybe
The End.
The End. Yes. Okay, makes sense. Wow, it's me.
The end.
I would be curious to hear if you had sort of on a score or like a partiture in terms of music, or not the music you use, but how did you work out the process, or how do you notate, how do you write, how do you combine movement and dance, and if anything of that happened, or do you have something like that or not, how you structure your work or how you organize your ideas and stuff. If you can tell us a little bit about the process of working.
I think actually the structure that we showed, so it's the first time that we presented to a general public, and so the structure actually has stayed the same since January, pretty much. And for us, we presented this version to a little panel of people, and the structure was pretty much what you saw. And for us, it was a draft. It was like, okay, let's put this together. It seems to make sense. It makes sense for us. Probably it won't make sense to anyone, but it makes sense to us. And then we presented this, and the people were like, it's great. And then we were like, no, like we have a lot of time spent like ahead and we want to do more. And they were like, no, it's great. And we really like the fact that it's a little bit shitty as well with your like PowerPoint. I really like to see the PowerPoint. I really like to see you doing it. I really like you having to get up and change the music. There's an honesty that comes across, and that's really nice for us to hear this, because it's very personal, and there needs to be this element of us really also struggling with it and not knowing, because even for the movement last night, I mean, we struggle a lot, and I was on the floor after the Guapa dance, and I said to Nasi, I can't carry on, you have to go and get some water, please. And he went, because it's very demanding somehow, but I think that helps. This exhaustion also helps, and this honesty of, we're not dancers, but hey, you know, we all try here. We're all trying to make a bit of a life on this planet with what you said, like all the challenges and everything, and it's hard and it's difficult.
Some other questions or comments?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was curious about another political issue that I personally saw in your piece, and I was curious about if you thought about this. Was this gender issue, like you being two white males dealing with this very close relationship? And so I was curious about if you thought about this thing of being there, showing in this very close relationship in this period in these years that we're discussing a lot about gender equality and patriarchy and all that kind of stuff. I saw a different pattern, a different way of looking at that, and I was curious if you dealt with it in your process.
I'd say we're aware of being two white men, and we're aware. We've been aware of that from the very beginning, from when we started working together, in terms of the tone of how two white men are on a stage, in terms of what that means, and in terms of the tone of how you perform that and how you show that to people. But really, there was this. I wouldn't say it was explicit on our minds in terms of it. We weren't we've never. It's just always been there. It's always been there in our heads. But there was one review or one that space, and I suppose that's when we realized it was very much a thing, and that was before we made this show, wasn't it? That we saw that. So someone else put their finger on it, basically, and we were like, oh, yeah, that's sort of a thing. But I'm not sure if we were super aware.
The question was also about your relationship on stage, like you hug and you show your love one to each other, and that's, to me it was very, very powerful to see heterosexual, from what you write at the end of the show. I don't know you personally so much, but to see your relationship in those terms was, very strong, because it's not so common to see that.
I think, yes, I think it's a thing that we talk about also in the room sometimes, is the difficulties also of being men and having to deal with the shit that also the baggage that men bring onto each other. And we're very critical of these things, but also sometimes we get dragged into it, and it's always very difficult to understand. And also knowing what kind of relationship two men can have is also a question, I think, that is very present in this piece and also in the previous piece that we just did. It's always okay, two men, what kind of relationship? What kind of love are we talking about as well? What kind of... So I think it's definitely... And also, to be fair, when we started making this piece, this dance piece, we had to be a lot closer to each other than we've been before physically. So much of our shows are about hating each other and hitting each other and things like this. And in this one, we really had to kind of embrace physical contact and get close. And there was discomfort, and there was a lot of laughs and can we do this? And oh my God, I'm putting my head in your testicles, and is that okay? And then we laughed about it, and then now it's become more natural. And I think that's why I was surprised when people last night told me about this. It's so rare to see people hug like this, to see two men hug like this. It's true that for us now, it's not so weird anymore. But to begin, it's a process as well, to learn to be okay and to just have a nice time doing it as well. And to enjoy this physical proximity and complicity, and it's really nice. Like sometimes to do it with him is like really fun, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about diagonals. The show seems to be very focused on diagonal, and then circle. So just why the diagonal? Why you've explored the diagonal so much? You don't know.
I mean, what do you think? I think diagonals are pretty fun. Pretty fun to do. It's like it's quite dramatic. Oh yeah, okay. So Ruth just said it's the longest part of the stage.
Yeah.
So that might be a reason as well. But we have gravitated to the circle a lot as well, haven't we?
I think, yeah, the circle thing is not, to be fair, it's not really our idea, okay? It's the lady who worked with us on this piece, and she's not here, but she's great, and she's called Laura Danikin, and she was like, I could see you skipping, and I could see you doing this in circles, because I think a lot of your shows, there's a lot of circles, and there's a lot of you in your house like showing your hands and doing this weird kind of dance, and she was like, I think you can skip for a long time. And so we started this, and I think the diagonals, it was just for us, it was like, okay, we're doing a dance piece, let's go for it. And then we were just like, okay, let's just do these jumps and just like be really free and amazing, and with Baroque music it's gonna be whoa, and then yeah, it's just us dancing weird.
Any other comments or questions? Sí, lo tengo aquí.
Sorry. So it coincidentally happened. I don't know if this is coincidental, and Anna can tell us, but the person that came out on Anna's show then also appeared in your show. Did you know? And tell us about that.
So Adele, we worked with him last year on Be Next, and we needed someone who's young to perform this last dance. And Adele is a great guy, but also he's very you can't expect. I think he's very unpredictable, basically. So when someone said to us, "Oh yeah, he was also in the show just before," and I was, "What?" And then also someone was confused and was like, "How did you get the same guy? And did you find him, like when you do your exit, did you find him in the wings? And then you said like, can you go on stage and do some like turns with Nassi?" And I was like, no, it's part of the show, it's part of the show. And I think this whole narrative we didn't understand until basically way after the show that he'd been in the... But it's great, I mean, he's so great. We really love him.
It was a nice moment to like, that when we came and did Be Next for the first time, Adil was like the first person in the room, and he was waiting for us. And we met him, and after we've done it a few more times, we got to know him even more. And then last night, there was a really nice moment that we were like, I can't believe, like, I wouldn't have guessed, like, all that time ago that Adil would be, like, making or breaking the piece for us, like, in this thing. And it was just really nice. He's great.
Just like to finish, maybe and to move on to the next show, I have one question here sent by Daniel. I don't know if it came from Daniel or from other people. So Daniel is himself, and I'm gonna read it because it's quite like literally. I'm gonna read it like it is because it's like, how many different ways did you die in the making of this show? I mean, how many different iterations of text have you written for the final scene, and how did you decide what stayed and what didn't in the imagining of your potential futures?
So it all kind of came out in one sort of sitting. Bert wrote most of the text, and then we edited it together, and we've shifted a few things, but most things have stayed the same. Like, we've cut some things that are maybe a little bit too ridiculous, and maybe a little bit unrealistic, and then we've added other things to just find like the tone of it. You had said something really great about like, it's about, we really enjoy these little moments like in the text that are very kind of mundane and quite realistic, or you can imagine. Yeah, but it was like that one sitting, and it sort of stayed quite the same.
Because I think we all know somehow like what's ahead a little bit, or we fear those things might happen, I think. And I think we sat down one day and we were like, okay, what are we scared of? What are the things that make us feel like we can't carry on or like the way that we are doing things now, you know? Because also it's about the way that we're doing things now that could then trigger all these things. So the fears are very much in our heads. So to write it was very relatively easy, you know?
Time for last question, or we move on? No one? Fine. Okay, let's go with, yeah.
Sorry.
So we move on to Light Years Away from Edurne Rubio. It was the first show you saw yesterday evening, so could you please introduce yourself a little bit and the work and whatever?
Mm-hmm. Then I'm a visual artist. Then I'm not coming from a performance, but I'm doing works with very, very different formats and context. I mean, in general, I start a project and I never know what will be. It's very strange that I do in the other side. Then in this case, I started, the first idea, it was make a radio piece with only sound. But then I imagine stories from the cave with my father and my family telling stories and the sound of the cave. But because I'm living in Belgium and produce mainly in Belgium, it was complicated for language. Then I decided to, I thought, okay, I have to make subtitles. Then that became a film. But then I started, and I like a lot also the collective. I'm from visual art, but I don't like when I'm alone seeing something. I like to be with people. And this is very important for me. It's because of that I stopped to do exhibitions. Then I started to imagine in a dark space watching this film without image of the cave. And then I started to imagine this space as a cave because it was really... It was a little bit the same thing, no? The people enter into a theater or into a cinema place to learn, to discover things, and and then you close yourself voluntarily in the darkness. And then I thought, okay, this time I will do 2 versions of the same project because it's happened to me that I always hesitate in. It's gonna be this or this, and sometimes I have regrets of not doing the other possibility. Yeah. Then I thought, okay, I do a performance and a film. And I started with the performance because I didn't want to do a film and then make a little decoration around. I was afraid of that. and I made the performance, and after that I made a film.
Nice, thank you. Does anyone want to ask something or comment something on Edurne's show we saw yesterday?
I hate this. I just wanted to say that it was very lovely to see something so meditative within that space, and to think this could be a film, but I'm so glad that it's not. I think was really, and to take that into a theatre festival was really refreshing and great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for me it was very interesting also to work in the theater, because I have not the habit of doing that. Then I discover a little bit the space as a site-specific, something that I already made in a different context. Then I felt like discovering the space of the theater. Yeah, and then, yeah.
I think I want to say that for me it was a continually surprise, because at the beginning we are entering in the darkness, and we was thinking, okay, what we will to see, yeah, and then at the beginning of the show it surprised me, and then in the middle when you start to talk about the, I don't know what you say in English, but memoria histórica maybe, and for me was very surprising all the time, and edificante, you use this word? Edificante? Edificante? Sí. No. Yeah, constructive for me. Yeah. See, it was amazing.
Thank you. That, also, for me, the cave was a little bit like your experience in the cave, because I knew at the beginning that I wanted to talk about exploration and why they wanted to explore, and I also wanted to talk about political, no, like this space as a freedom space, which is the contrary of normal culture. No, the light is knowledge and freedom, and darkness is being, yeah. And then it was my interest, no? But then I entered into the cave, and then things coming to me, and it was surprise, and it was very difficult to keep all these layers and all these themes that the cave gave me.
Some other questions? As I asked before, Carles, I wanted to turn back the question to you, because I said in your hypnosis that it's a documentary without faces, and I found it like also a very important thing, and also I think that it may change the way the final scenical thing is showed on the theater. So, yeah, what do you think about this fact inside the documentary theater or documentary performance gender? Like, it's important for you not to have the faces. Why you choose not to show the faces of the people involved, or?
I'm very interested in sound and how sound can help you to imagine things. And I'm very interested in created mental images. No, then I always work in a documentary way, because I'm interested in the oral transmission also, and the words and the gesture of the voice, and how can arrive. The first time I started with sound work, I was filming people talking about a place. And the moment when I was with these people, it was very interesting. But then when I saw the film, for me it was not interesting anymore, because I was looking at this person, not what they were telling. And then I took out the image, and suddenly I was really seeing the things that they were describing. And then that came with me all during the last years. And as you said, also I'm very interested in to create a collective history, through different voices, and to create and to talk about history through stories.
Some other questions? I've as well. Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much for the piece. I really enjoyed it. From a technical point of view, I really enjoyed that you felt like you were in the cave with this surround, like when they were walking across the front and then they came past you. And also what you did with the light, like bringing it into the shot. I have no idea how you did that. I was just like, how the... But I think it was a simple mechanism, but it totally nailed it for me. It was, as you said before, full of surprises, and like I constantly was trying to figure out like how each piece was done. And then when the lights came on in the rig, I was like, this is good. I also, for me, I love seeing, I think this could work in any space, obviously, but when you're in a theatre, I love seeing like this, like the backstage, the grid, the lights, whatever, and I think it's a nice choice to choose to show that, because you're showing this other side, which is what caves are. I also thought of something just earlier, that what you were saying about the political thing, when you go into this dark space and he was free to sing these songs, or like they talked about all sorts of stuff. It's like that's what theatre does as well, in a way. You go into this space and people talk about things or suggest things, or you think things through someone else's performance, and in a dark space as well, which is I quite like that kind of mirroring. But yeah, it was really, really lovely. Three of my favourite things: technical, caves, theatre. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the song, and the beginning of the song is translated or is subtitled, and for our Spanish, it's a very well-known song, so I almost know the lyrics by heart, but I wonder why you decided not to subtitle the rest of the song, and because I guess for the British or the non-Spanish speakers, they missed something of the content of the piece, like when you decide not to subtitle when there are people on the image, and I wanted to know why that decision.
All the process for doing the piece, it was fighting with this idea of film. Like forget that we were looking at recorded images, to bring the people to the present. We are here with these speleologists, with these prehistorical men. We are all at the same time in the same place. Then we were fighting against the film screen. It's because of that we projected in a black curtain, and we blur and then also the subtitles. It was when I taste to subtitle the song or other images, then you directly goes to a film projection. Then we decided to take out and I think, I don't know if for you it was a problem that you didn't understand the song.
I was very emotional during the song, but I obviously don't know the context at all. But I still could feel the power, or what you'd said previously gave way, that it was something special or important, or this sort of fighting for freedom. There was also people singing in the audience, and I was like, couldn't quite deal with it. As a Scottish person, I was kind of like, I feel this somehow. But yeah, I think obviously there's a bit of me that wants to know what the song was about, but also I could understand what it was. And I think what you're saying about the subtitles, it is like you are there with him, or you can shut your eyes and listen. You don't necessarily need to see what it's saying. I still want to know what it said, but also like it worked.
Any other questions? I have here another Daniel's question for you, and it was related to something I wanted to ask you. Like he says, like, well, it's in Spanish, this one, because it's for you. I will translate it in English. He said, like, I would like to know how you work with different spaces, and if you have like make, he say, like a deeper exploration, meaning like about the 5 senses, like not the visual and the auditive thing only. And then I wanted to, the question I wanted to make that it's related is like how, because I felt like the transformation of the space to make the space being 2 things at the same time was one of the main points of your work. Don't know if I'm right. And then like how do you do this process? Like you began with the visual thing, with the, you even like you make a separation between like, you know, visual stuff, auditive stuff, or other kind of senses, or how do you deal with that? And then he wanted to know if you work beyond the visual and the auditive.
Well, in this case, in the cave, there is something that I could not do yesterday because problem of security. This piece is very hard to do in theaters. I have to. There are a lot of things, but I think I never made everything in one place. I'm able to do some things in one place and in the other, and then normally when the audience enter to the cave, there are a smell of carburo, carbide, what is the mineral that the speleologists use to do light, and it has a very strong smell, and that works very well. But yesterday, yeah, I could not do it because of security. Yeah. And also the cold, it was not very cold. Normally, I try to get cold the place. Then when you enter, yeah. And also because we were in there were different things I could not make yesterday. But it's the first time I was using the smell idea. But I'm now preparing, starting a new piece that I would like to do really a sensorial experience, a little bit to continue this idea.
Thank you. I know what happens. Okay, there's any other questions? Any other comments? Can go. Okay, so we will move on to the next show. Thank you, Edurne. So Anna Bitzok, and Precedents to a Potential Future. So could you please introduce a little bit yourself and your work so we open the conversation? Thank you.
So my name is Anna Bitzok, and I come from Budapest, Hungary. And I am based there as a freelance dancer, and mostly I do dance and choreography and co-creating in very different kind of projects and constellations, and it's like maybe in every 2, 3 or 4 years that I do something, like come up with something which is my own thing. So I always feel very much a starter in this because I don't do this regularly. And I think this piece I did was maybe the second one, which is like a whole evening piece. And I started to work on it in 2017. It was part of a mentoring program of Ciao Umysł Festival in Warsaw, and I premiered it there. And since then, like from time to time, I played it in Budapest and Ljubljana. Yeah. And the starting point of my work was I wanted to do a dance solo. And it turned out that it's not the direction I was interested in. But in the beginning, I very much was working on physicality and improvisations. And I realized in every work in progress showing how much I'm more interested in talking about what I'm doing, less than showing any dance. And it always turned out that it was interesting for the audience too. I mixed. I wanted to express content, which can be in personality through when dancing, or through dancing when there are different kind of sensations. Like when you go into the body and physicality, you always have a shift in transformation in the state of mind, and what that comes up with, what kind of contents come up from your imagination, from your unconscious, from your memories, and how to make a dancer or the body actually the content of the piece, and not material to express other contents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anyone want to have a comment, question, whatever? Okay, so we began with Daniel's question. I have some for you, but I will begin with Daniel once. He says, you did the text in English, and I guess that's because you came to England to perform. Like he asks, do you do that normally? Like, do you perform that in English in other places? And does the fact that you made it in English, does it change anything? You know, like to have to translate it, does it add any layers? Does it add any different distance with the audience or not? And are you interested in that? Because she says, like, for example, your characters, the ones you are like in your text, doesn't have Hungarian names, but British ones. So, like, did you adapt even that, and why?
So actually, it happened the other way around. As I was performing it like first time in Warsaw, so I was working on it in English, and I wrote the text in English. And my character is originally that one. Okay. And when I translated it to Hungarian, that was a big issue actually, because I found out that this distance was so comfortable. And then when I have to translate it to my native language, it was like, it doesn't work anymore. This is what I thought like before. And then of course, like I worked through and went through it and translated it, but I really had to be like conscious about finding a new kind of, I don't know if character is a good word, but like a new performer in Hungarian. And I don't have Hungarian names of the characters actually, so they stayed English.
Let's say. Super. No? Okay, I go with another one. I had the feeling yesterday like your work was very finished. Not in the sense, I mean, most of the works we've seen here are finished in the sense that it's the thing that the artist want to propose. But I mean finished in the sense that it was very clear the codes, or at least for me, the codes you were using, like, and the meta dancing or meta scenical discourse you were getting there. So for me, it was very comfortable to see in the good sense. You know, like I feel like all that. I mean, it's part of the contemporary scenic arts. The fact that the spectators have to work along with the performance to get, or to design in between some meaning for the things they are watching. But I felt I didn't have to do that a lot at all with your performance yesterday. I don't know if you get my point. Like it was very, very clear, very accurate, and very exact in that in everything you wanted to put every topic you wanted to put inside the performance. And maybe a little bit like the work you do in Sotterraneo, maybe that thing is like everything is clear in any moment. Like but I don't know if it's my sensation because I have the codes, you know, and I'm a dancer as well, and I work in theater, so it's like that. Or that's what I wanted to ask. Do you feel like your audiences are like it's clear for them that the work, or it's different if you perform in a festival context in which there are lots of people coming from scenical backgrounds, or not? Or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I have like different approaches to answer this question, because at first I think I wasn't, when in the process I wasn't at all clear what I'm doing. So obviously it's just this language is just just happened to be there, and I was also surprised how like precise it came out, maybe through the character also, like that is making up all these things. But I have this struggle and like life project of like getting verbal and non-verbal expressions closer to each other, which is like an impossible thing. But I think through this piece and process, I tried to somehow find words to the dance experience and to dance world, and what does that mean, and but not only mean, because I know more of how it is from the sensing side, because I have more experience in the dance than in finding meanings. So maybe in my process it was I had to find at this point something. And I think it is very different in different contexts how people get it, because yes, if you're close to it, or maybe like from dance part, or people find it super clear, but if like I think about an origin or an average audience member from Hungary, they actually wouldn't get it this way. Neither, yeah, like they don't understand what I'm talking about and what I'm doing, and why is it not more dancing, or why is it, I don't know. So it's like, it's very much depending on how much or how close this world is to you, I think. And I think it wasn't that conscious, but I wanted to help or to build a path to those audiences through to our world, or to dance world, or to physicality, how that can be like sensed and not through only dancing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. One question is your relationship with Chris, the sound designer or technical on stage, because you decide to put him on stage, and the character doesn't acknowledge that person on stage at any point, whereas she acknowledges everything else around her. So I was just curious why you decided to put that person on stage and not to have a relationship with him.
Oh, you mean the musician?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you acknowledge an audience member that enters, you have a very direct relationship with the audience, but it's almost like he's not there for the character.
This happened only here, that he's on stage, and I just didn't have enough thought and time to think about how to shift that relationship, or because usually he's in between the audience members. That because I wanted him to be seen, that he's doing it live, because actually mostly like there were people in other performances who did not even realize that the sound is live. So I like him to be seen, but also he's not very much part of the world as a person, but only that music is part of the, yeah. So it's a mistake.
Anyone else? I was there and I've just come here. You said that you wanted to do a dance solo and finally it turned into what you did, that for me it's still a dance solo somehow. Are you going to try harder another time to do a dance solo that you consider really as a dance solo and that you wouldn't find some kind of excuses to go to dance?
I'm not sure. Because I think I had more time in dancing, and it was like the very first time that I came up with a text and did storytelling on stage, and it just made me feel so free suddenly that I realized how much I miss my voice actually as a dancer. And it's like, oh, I cannot, like, I'm a dancer and usually I'm not speaking on stage, or of course there are some, but this is not the main point of or the main thing of a dancer, right? So I kind of was more, interested in sharing what is inside more than what can be seen through physicality. And I don't know if I'm going to be interested again in going more into dance.
I really enjoy also your work, and this relation between dance and talking is dancing, and then how these are doing, or how you are doing this in the show, because we think we can be very different, but it's not so different. Dancing is talking is dance somehow, and your show showed this for me. And then also in dance, we have this idea of the bailarin doesn't have a voice, and this is nice when you say about the voice, how it comes out, and how you also can be free more with your voice than somehow with your movement. I don't know, you building a body with your voice in the space, and this can make more present to your body also. I felt it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also did enjoy the piece, and since I sometimes I happen to have problems with dance in terms of enjoying it and to have clear in my mind what the dancer or the choreographer wants to express. And so while you were doing the, let's call it the solo, the dance solo, I was asking myself, okay, so now that's the dance solo. But then there is the end part in which the dance solo is put in the frame of the narrative, and it gave a great meaning to me. But then the question is, so don't you think that like just dancing is a tool enough strong to express something, and that's the reason you want to put a frame, or there is something else? Because I mean, a lot of dancer and choreographer, I mean, I know I'm going into a very dangerous field now, but the thing is, yeah, a lot of choreographers and dancers, and I kind of agree. I happen to talk a lot about this. Say that, yeah, I mean, dance itself is something you should experience like music, so you don't ask why you like some music, but you just happen to like it. And I kind of agree. So I was just curious, what's your position about this, like pure dancing and the availability for the audience to see in that dance what he or she wants to see?
Yes, I think this like preciousness of only or pure dancing is very much I don't know, as an aim or a religion in some parts, of the dance world. But I think I very much appreciate when somebody does that, and I really love when I can like sense everything through pure dancing. I don't think that I want to like evaluate that and think and I don't want to think about it like that it is more precious than doing something else. I think this was my path through this project, and it turned out that I'm more interested now in using different tools, but like the freedom what it gave me, it just like led me to believe that it is all about just that freedom of expression, what you actually need in that project, what you do.
Any more comments, questions? No? Everyone satisfied? So maybe we can close this feedback session and see you later in the rest of the shows of the festival, in the final session, the awards ceremony, all the stuff, the party, the super big party after that. So thank you everyone for being here till the last moment and for participating and taking part in this, and yeah, see you around.